Most people think their problem is laziness. It isn't. The real problem is something far less dramatic. Structure. Now, before we talk about structure, let's run a quick test. Think about the last 7 days. Not the plans you made, but the actions you actually executed. How many times did you schedule something important and then just quietly moved it away? That workout that didn't happen. That task that you delayed again. A skill that just doesn't get practiced enough. Or that deadline that you just pushed ahead to tomorrow. These aren't dramatic things. There's no collapse, there's no crisis, there's no chaos. Just small adjustments. A tiny delay here and there. A negotiation you have with yourself, convincing you that tomorrow is just another day. Individually, these decisions seem harmless. But when you step back and you look at them all together, they reveal something important. Your ambition may be real and your intentions may be sincere, but the structure carrying those intentions is frail. And when structure is weak, drift becomes inevitable. Most men believe progress begins with ambition, so they set bigger goals, they push harder, they keep wanting more, and then everything will just fall into place. Ambition isn't rare. In fact, it's extremely common, since most people can imagine a better version of themselves, a stronger body and a sharper mind, having a career with momentum, or a life that feels intentional instead of reactive. Ambition creates this desire, but desire alone does not create progress. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many goals from last year are still unfinished? Because ambition lives in imagination, while structure exists in behavior. And behavior determines whether progress survives pressure. Now we reach the point where most plans fail. The negotiation point. You planned to train today. You scheduled the time. You even imagined what it would feel like to finish the workout. But then life applies pressure. Work extends just a bit longer than you expected. Your energy disappears. Then your brain suggests a small adjustment. Just move it to tomorrow. Nothing about the decision feels dramatic. It feels reasonable, responsible even. But something important just happened. Your nervous system just recorded relief. And relief is very powerful, because relief is reward. Your brain isn't sabotaging you, it's learning. And the lesson it learns is that postponement is simple and avoidance works. Failure rarely arrives in a single moment. It accumulates slowly. It arrives in the way that rust forms on metal. Quietly, gradually, creeping up until one day, something that used to look strong breaks. Each decision is small, and each one feels justified. But over time, these decisions start to shape your identity. Identity isn't formed by intention. It's formed by repetition. If you repeat discipline, you become disciplined. If you repeat postponement, you become someone who postpones. Your brain updates its prediction of who you are, which isn't based on potential. It's based on behavior. There was a period in my life where I believed I was disciplined. I read constantly, I studied ideas, and I thought deeply about the man I wanted to become. And from the outside, it looked like progress. But my execution was unstable. Training happened inconsistently. My schedule changed every week, every day even. And my behavior depended on my mood. Some weeks I would push hard, and then others I would just disappear into distraction. I didn't have a system that protected the behaviors that actually mattered. And I had to admit something very uncomfortable. I had ambition, hopes, desires, dreams for my life, but I had no operating system. Most people misunderstand structure. When they hear the word, they imagine complicated systems, rigid schedules, productivity apps, and perfect discipline. But structure is something much simpler. Structure is hierarchy. Hierarchy means some behaviors are protected from negotiation. They sit higher in the system. You don't debate whether they happen. You decide when they happen. That sounds like a small difference, but it changes everything. Because most people live in the opposite way. Everything in their life is negotiable. Mood decides, energy decides, convenience decides. And when negotiation controls behavior, discipline becomes unstable. A structured man does not wake up negotiating with his mood. A structured man doesn't wake up and debate whether he's going to train. The decision was made long before the moment arrived. The debate already happened and the outcome is already installed. Think of structure like a guardrail on a mountain road. The guardrails themselves don't drive the car for you, but they do exist to prevent small mistakes from becoming catastrophic. Structure does the same thing for behavior. When structure exists, execution becomes predictable. And when structure doesn't exist, every action becomes a negotiation. And negotiations are where discipline quietly collapses. In the end, motivation tries to win the negotiation. Structure removes the negotiation. That's why structured people appear disciplined. They're not stronger every day. They simply removed the distraction that weakened them. Instead of deciding every morning, they follow the hierarchy that's already been installed. And that little shift dramatically increases consistency. So, instead of dramatic change, let's start with something much simpler. We'll run an experiment. 7 days, 3 behaviors. Nothing extreme, nothing complicated. Just enough structure to expose the truth. You choose your behaviors. They could be training 3 times a week, sleeping 7 hours a night, or doing focused skill work every day for 20 minutes. That's it. And then you track them. Write them down. Don't just memorize it in your head. Don't just think about it. Because measurement removes the ability for you to negotiate with yourself. Take a moment and notice what your mind is doing right now. It's already negotiating. Maybe I should modify it. Next week would be better. Maybe I'll start when things have calmed down a little. That negotiation is the exact pattern we've been discussing. This experiment removes that pattern. For 7 days, the debate is over. You simply execute. No emotional surge, no dramatic life overhaul. Just remove negotiation for 7 days. 7 days will tell you a lot more about your discipline than 7 months of thinking about it. Because this experiment does something powerful. It exposes compliance, and compliance tells the truth about your structure. Not your ambitions, not your intentions, your structure. Most men watching this episode will agree with everything they hear. They'll recognize the pattern, they'll even see it in themselves. Then they'll move on. Because understanding a problem does not automatically change the behavior. Very few will actually run the test. And the difference may seem small at first, but it compounds quietly over time. Every week of consistency strengthens identity. Every week of negotiation chips away, weakening it further and further. 5 years from now, that small difference between 2 paths becomes enormous. One man will have stabilized his behavior. The other man will have kept negotiating with himself. Both started in the same place, but their trajectories slowly separated. If your structure doesn't change, your trajectory can't change either. Not next month, not next year, because ambition by itself does not determine success. Structure does. Most men are not lazy. They're just unstructured. And structure can be built. So don't overhaul your life. Run the test. 3 behaviors, 7 days. Track them. Let your behavior tell the truth about your structure. Then, we'll talk about what comes next.